Hello everyone, this is POW Ponder on Weather. In this update, we're going to be talking about a series of storms with large waves, high winds, snow, and a rapid warm-up followed by much colder air. So if you're new to the channel, click the subscribe button and notification bell to get all my daily updates to keep you ahead of the storm. Good morning everyone. This is your Saturday, November the 6th update, and what we're taking a look at here is a satellite picture this morning. With all the heavier rains just keep inundating parts of the Pacific Northwest. They're welcome rains out there in Northern California, as we have that system that we're going to be talking about with this low pressure off the southeast coast. It dumped a lot of rain yesterday. In fact, they had record rains in Tampa Bay here with easily 3 to 6 inch swath for a good central part of the Florida here. Now that's off the southeast coast, and it's still packing a punch, as we have two tropical systems. Actually, this is a tropical depression 18, and this is probably going to be named a storm in the coming days. But it's fairly quiet in the Atlantic. Hurricane season is winding down as Wanda's safely moving away. We do have some sporadic showers within the Caribbean here, based on an old frontal boundary. But yeah, the main impacts today are going to be off the southeast coast. But this morning, it's still cold because we still got all that cold air to deal with. That cold front continues to sag further and further south. It's a lot of areas in Texas are waking this morning with pretty chilly conditions. Even Little Rock is 33 degrees, and that freeze line continues to press further south as widespread freezes in much of the Ohio Valley. Pittsburgh's at 27 degrees this morning. But yeah, a lot of these areas in the Northeast are well in the 20s, as this will keep extending further southeast into tomorrow. It'll be into portions of, say, Atlanta, and then eventually into even Florida, where they're dealing with all the rain. Then they're going to be well below average temperature anomalies on the backside. So, but today, man, that low pressure system's really going to be rapidly developing off the southeast coast. This is a bona fide storm, guys. I mean, luckily this is pretty far offshore, but it's still close enough. It's a lot of these areas around the coastal areas are experiencing tropical storm force wind gust, and even along the coastal communities, it's not out of the question. Some of those could be up to hurricane force, as this is a rapidly 987 millibar low pressure system with some very tightening winds around the center and some very large waves as well. And as this kind of traverses up the coast, this is a hurricane, pretty much 977. It's not a tropical system, but I mean, anytime we would see a 977 millibar low pressure, we would be talking about this is a hurricane force winds off the coast. I mean, these winds out here are going to be pumping at 80 and 90 miles an hour offshore here of the outer banks here, dumping some very large waves and coastal floods along the region. So, but hopefully safely, this is going to be moving well away from land by the time we get into Monday timeframe, away from the Northeast. But you're still going to be impacted with some of those large waves, especially along the coastal areas, because here's the winds. I mean, yeah, a lot of these areas in here into the kind of the whites, those are hurricane force winds, guys. I mean, upwards to almost 97 miles an hour offshore here, but you can see where that's affecting land. These are all tropical storm force wind gusts for pretty much extending into Florida, into parts of southeast Georgia here, much of Carolinas. It's going to be a nasty day in Tybee Island this morning and overall today. And then even in the Carolinas, man, there's some of those higher winds, and especially along the coast here, you could be picking up some in Cape Hatteras easily. Hurricane force wind gusts is definitely not out of the question today and tomorrow as we get into with this system. But it's finally going to be moving offshore, but in its wake, it's going to dump a lot of heavy, massive waves offshore. Check out these waves of easily 30, 40, 50 feet just well offshore here. But yeah, a lot of these areas are going to be having extreme high rip currents off the coast here. So definitely be on the lookout for that if you live definitely along the coastal communities here, because this is a formidable storm. I mean, no question whatsoever. This is definitely a formidable storm. And if this was a tropical type feature, we would be talking about a hurricane off the southeast coast. But luckily it's not. but it's still going to be packing about the same amount of impacts from a tropical type system. So as we extend it, then we have a rapid warm up. I mean, it's a quick mover. I mean, we got a lot of dry air in place, and as the winds turn around, say in Texas and much of the Southeast, and you can see definitely by over the next 5 days here on the backside, we've got a rapid warm up in the midsection of the country, really encompassing pretty much almost not the entire country, but the West Coast is going to be below average, and still the parts of the Southeast is going to be below average. But in the midsection of the country, you're going to be experiencing some of those rapidly warming conditions by the time we get into really starting today, after this colder air drains further off into the Southeast. Because by the time we get into Sunday, I mean, we could be already talking about near record high temperatures in Amarillo of 82 degrees. I mean, you just hit the freezing mark in the Texas Panhandle just a day or two ago. So yeah, by Sunday you can see things rapidly turn around on the backside with some very rapidly warm air and widespread 70s, which these are all above average for this time of year. But these are actually going to be feeling pretty nice. I mean, who can complain about 73 degree temperatures, right? And so yeah, widespread 70s. This is fall, so it's pretty typical. You kind of see these big transitions of cool downs and then rapid warm ups. And then we have another cold blast. It's going to be coming in by the time we get into that Friday, especially into next weekend time frame. So we'll go over that. So as we get into Tuesday, your November 9th, now we look off the West Coast. You can see the rapid warm up. That system off the Southeast coast is safely moving offshore by then. But in the midsection, I showed you the warm up, and it's a good chunk of the country is going to be experiencing those warmer conditions as we look for the Pacific Northwest of this rapidly developing and really intense storm again. They've seen a series of storms, and this is another big one, guys, and this is going to be down to another 975 millibar low pressure system off the Pacific Northwest. You can see here by Tuesday morning down to a 975. As these series of low pressures just keep inundating the Pacific Northwest. But this one's going to be a fairly large one, packing again some very large waves out in this area. That's why they've got those hazard sea warnings out even right now. It's just going to be dangerous to travel by ship coming off the shore in the open waters here. And that's going to be, again, packing some more heavy rain and some higher winds along the coast as we get in through time. But yeah, there's the wind swaps over the next 3 days from these two systems off the Southeast coast. You can see these waves are going to be packing 30, 40 feet, no question. And then off the Pacific Northwest coast, again, this another rapidly developing cyclone will dive down into the Pacific Northwest, and again bring some very high winds along the coast here. So this is just a series of storms you've been inundated from the Pacific Northwest, and that's just going to continue with this stream of moisture continues to flow off the West Coast here, inundating again along the coast into Washington and Oregon and Northern California, where they desperately need the rain. So yes, by that Wednesday time frame, things turn around again. So the atmosphere starts to kind of reload. And then now we see the moisture supply coming back into Texas. I mean, you're going to be dry for the next 5 to 6 days in much of Texas. But by the time we get into Wednesday time frame, that moisture surge comes back again. That's going to be tapping into a system. So now we're going to be talking some more rain showers and storm development by the time we get into Wednesday night, Thursday, into parts of Texas, into Oklahoma, into Kansas here, going into Missouri and Arkansas as well. With that view, by the time we get into that Wednesday night, Thursday morning time frame on November the 11th, we've got these series of storms to the north. So once it gets to the interior regions, you can see this blue line trying to make the indication of more colder air coming down from Canada, and that's going to continue diving further and further south as we get throughout late next week, and then especially we get into next weekend. And on the tail end of it, we've got some storms to be dealing with, some rain coming back from North Texas into Oklahoma, getting into Kansas, going into Missouri, into Arkansas, getting into Louisiana. along this boundary here, and then you got snow onto the northern side, and some of these could turn severe by the time we get into that late Thursday night, Friday time frame, and parts of, say, yeah, basically parts of eastern Oklahoma here, into Missouri, into Arkansas. This is going to be pretty quick moving system. So, and this will eventually probably get into the Dixie Alley area by the time we get into that Friday and then that Saturday time frame, the 13th. So yes, that colder air follows on the backside. So it's going to take this line of essentially Montana to Wyoming, parts of Colorado into the Texas Panhandle again, and then really kind of dive in and then be pretty progressive. It's another quick moving shot. But yes, this is the boundary of where some of those colder anomalies are going to be taking place in parts of Kansas and Oklahoma and to North Texas and to Louisiana, Mississippi, Alabama, and to Georgia, and the Tennessee Valley, and to Kentucky, going into Missouri here and Illinois. These are going to be your colder anomalies on average that you would typically see this time of year, with again another cold shot after you rapidly warm up for the next 5 to 6 days. We got more colder air coming in by the time we get into that Friday, and this is highlighted on Saturday between the 13th and the 15th time frame, where the coldest anomalies are going to be for that part of the country. So as we extend the view, and the Climate Prediction Center is already kind of highlighting that in their 6 to 10 day outlook, with the rapid warm up now, and then by the time we get into that November the 11th and November 15th time frame, we've got the West Coast warming up again, and then followed by that more colder air over these 5 day periods, with the coldest anomalies pretty much confined into Oklahoma and parts of Texas, and to Missouri, and to Arkansas, and to Louisiana. And this will actually shift eastward as we extend the view through the middle of the month. But as these systems come through, it's like I said, it's going to be a quick moving system. You've got precipitation into Texas, but on the backside, it rapidly dries out again as these systems slow down off the East Coast and bring some of those above average rains into parts of the Southeast, going into along the coastal areas of Georgia, Virginia here, going into Pennsylvania, as well as upstate New York again, with those some heavier rains moving back in the picture by them. But back behind it, it's going to be a very quick moving week. So there's going to be fairly quick moving, fast series of fronts. They're going to be moving through from west to east, but as these isobars really tighten up, and a lot of the heavier high winds are going to be taking place on the backside. So yeah, right along this northern track where they could see some snow breaking out in this region, you're going to be packing some higher winds as well into portions of Montana, getting into the Dakotas, going into Minnesota, and into Iowa. And then you have that kind of the southern track as well, with these storms kind of breaking out in parts of Oklahoma, and to parts of North Texas on the backside, with these isobars kind of really tightening up. And then once it gets off the East Coast here, these winds could pick back up again with that prevailing system as we get into next weekend. So let's take a look at the rain prospects over the next week. Again, the Pacific Northwest continues to be inundated with some very heavy rain, with those series of storms just day after day after day. And then even Northern California, again, this line pretty much predominantly stays Northern California along the coast, and then much of Southern California, and Arizona, and to Utah, and parts of Colorado and New Mexico, and even well into West Texas. Not really going to be seeing much rain over the next week, as these are really quick moving systems as these traverse across. But once it taps into some of that Gulf moisture, these are going to bring some rain showers back in the picture by the time we get into that Wednesday, Thursday time frame, into North Texas and to parts of East Texas. And these will just continue, and some of these will be severe on some of the severe side, into parts of Oklahoma, into Missouri, as well as Arkansas, and eventually probably get into the Dixie Alley area, as some of this will be in the form of snow. But there's your heavier rains along the East Coast, and especially as we get up in here into the Northeast, with that second system coming in by the late this upcoming week. And so as we take a look at some of the snow with that northern track, again, these are going to be fairly quick moving system. These are all kind of mountain snows filtering into the picture, into Idaho, into parts of Wyoming here. kind of higher elevation events. But once they're able to tap into some of that colder air, this really doesn't start until that Wednesday into Thursday, getting into Friday, Saturday time frame, with some of these snows filtering back in into the Dakotas, into Minnesota here, going into Wisconsin, and getting into parts of Iowa, as these will just continue into Michigan and going into these northern regions, into upstate New York, and eventually Vermont, New Hampshire, and probably northern parts of Maine, as this system would continue moving across on that northerly track. So hey, I appreciate you guys watching. Do like this video. I won't be updating tomorrow, as I'll be going to Missouri to get my puppy, my corgi puppy that I'm going to be getting. So there's definitely no update tomorrow, but I'll be back on Monday with my daily updates. So I appreciate you guys watching. Do like this video. Definitely leave your comments below, and don't forget to subscribe to my channel. Catch the latest update where I protect you before and after storms.